Good afternoon and welcome to Chapter 1, Rhetorical Situations, Writing Processes, and Elements of Rhetoric. I will be providing the slideshow with the video for Chapter 1, but you need to make sure that you carefully read that chapter on your own. All right, so what is rhetoric? What's a rhetorical situation? All right, so a rhetorical situation, well, it's pretty basic, right? What is the situation? You are being asked to write an essay, or for your first assignment, you will be asked to write a letter to me directly, your professor. And we have to ask ourselves before we start writing, what am I writing? Who am I writing to? And why am I writing it, right? So for your first assignment, you will be writing a letter. Who are you writing to? You are writing it to your professor. And why are you writing it? You're writing it to introduce yourself to your instructor and to share your academic experiences and educational background. So before we start any writing assignment, we have to ask ourselves, what am I being asked to do? And I know that sounds rather obvious, but it is important before we start anything. What is it that I am supposed to be doing? And propose a strategy for the best way of completing that task. So the parts of a rhetorical situation, there are three parts, right? There's the writer who is writing, that would be you. There is the message or what the purpose of the writing is. And finally, there will be an audience, right? That person who will be reading your writing. In the case of college studies, the student is usually the writer. The message depends on the assignment requirements, and your audience, generally speaking, is first primarily your teacher, your instructor, and sometimes it will be your peer group. So you have to start with understanding yourself. Who are you as a writer, right? What do you know? What are your perspectives and ideas? And then you have to think about where your ideas come from, because what we write is based largely on who we are and what we know. So when you are asked for a writing assignment, your first writing assignment will be asking you to provide information on a social issue. And so you'll have to ask yourself, right, who am I? What do I know about social issues or social problems that need to be addressed? What are my perspectives and ideas about this particular topic? And where do my ideas come from? Introspection and reflection, because it matters, right? Who you are matters because you are the foundation of your writing. You start with yourself, your values, your age, your education, your experience, your gender identity, your social class, your beliefs, your ethnicity, your race, and your culture. All of these come into play as you decide how you're going to complete any writing assignment. All right, so when you're writing for an academic audience, you will be asked to inform, educate, sometimes to persuade and argue or debate, and in some cases to entertain, right? So as a scholar and a writer, you're expected to meet the needs of a college-educated audience. So it's important as you're thinking through and you're brainstorming and you're developing your ideas and you're doing research to develop a sophisticated, original, and insightful message. Avoid writing about those topics that many students write about. Look for your originality. Look to see where you can share insightful information that other people may not know about. That helps your writing become sophisticated. All right, so what about your audience? Well, your audience is diverse, right? Where can you begin finding new information and new perspectives? So that comes with the research component of writing and understanding that your audience is diverse. In many cases, you'll be writing for 3 or 4 teachers in any given semester, and those 3 or 4 instructors are going to be very different. How can you most effectively share your ideas and discoveries with your audience? What tone should you use when you write? What voice should you use? How can I embrace and respect the ideas and views of my audience? How can I connect with the needs of the audience? And this can be a tough one sometimes because we don't always know what our audience thinks, what our reader feels, and what their experiences are. So we have to find ways that we can connect on a similar basis that we do with our audience. What might my audience already know about my writing topic? And this has to go with being original and being sophisticated. Avoid engaging in research and writing that pretty much shares information or ideas that are commonplace, that are commonly known. Dig deep and look for that information that's unique, information that people may not already have. All right, understanding the audience. Your professor and your peers are your primary audience. They will be reading and responding to your work. And in cases of where you might be making a presentation, they will be watching and listening and responding to the research discoveries that you offer them in your assignments. So who is your audience? What newness can you provide to your audience? And what will make your ideas and writing memorable? We want to write that essay that's memorable, right? The memorable essay that teaches the person who read something new. All right, so there are three main elements of rhetoric. There are actually hundreds of appeals, rhetorical appeals. We are not going to be able to cover them in this first semester here in English 101. But we're going to focus this semester, this 8 weeks, on these three particular areas: ethos, pathos, and logos. Establishing credibility as a writer, connecting reasonably and empathetically with our readers, and providing reliable and reasonable research. So ethos means you need to be trustworthy as a writer. You have to establish that very quickly when you're writing. The reader needs to know that you are balanced, that you are fair-minded, that you are reliable, and that you use credible sources, and that basically you are honest and trustworthy. Now, this might be hard because some students say, well, this is a new topic for me and I haven't written about this before. It's not about how much you know at the onset of writing an essay, but it's how much you learn as you progress in writing the essay and doing the research. So when you're doing that research and you're writing out your ideas, it is important to establish credibility by being balanced and fair-minded and reliable. Pathos is usually seen as an appeal to people's emotions, right? And we usually ask writers to avoid emotional exaggeration when you're writing and to acknowledge possible emotional biases. While opinions and bias are hard to avoid 100% in writing, we need to make sure, right, that we don't exaggerate those personal opinions or exaggerate those biases. We have to understand that our reader has specific emotional responses and feelings and experiences about what you might be writing about, and we have to make sure that we respect that. Logos is commonly known as research, but it goes a little bit more in depth than that. You have to make sure that your research is corroborated, that it's gathered by reliable experts, that it provides facts and not opinions and biases, that there are clear definitions, and that we are citing examples and data and statistics from experts and authorities in a particular field. All right, so basically, before you write anything, you need to sit back and ask yourself, what is this rhetorical situation? What am I writing? Why am I writing? What do I already know about what I'm going to be writing about? What do I need to know? Are there any experiences or common ground that I've had in the past that can connect me to this topic that I'm writing about? And as you're writing, you have to make sure that in that process, you are being credible, empathetic, and you're basing your information on research. All right. So what I encourage you to do is to go and read chapter 1 very carefully and refer to this particular video for the summary so you can use it as a touchstone to review what it is that you have read. All right. Thank you. And I will see you at chapter 2.